Yeah, it is another episode of the Autumn Windbags. RJ Clifford, Juan Soto. Let's have some fun today. After a embarrassing offensive performance in week 1 in Los Angeles against the Chargers, the Raiders dusted themselves off, flew across the country over to Baltimore against the Ravens. Ravens coming off of a long week, heartbreaking loss on Thursday Night Football to the Queefs. We knew they'd be pissed. We knew they'd be rested. We knew they'd be ready with one of the better coaches in football, with an NFL MVP at quarterback, with a running game that we thought would be the Achilles heel of the Las Vegas Raiders. And so Vegas said, you're going to be 9.5-point underdogs, Raiders. And so the Raiders said, take 2 of these and you know where to shove them. Raiders 26, Ravens 23, 1-1 on this season. Biggest underdogs of week 2. They bent them over and smacked them.
Yeah, dude, that 9.5 points was disrespectful. It's like, this isn't a bum team.
It's week 2.
Super disrespectful. Super. My shit's crooked too. I need to get my stuff straight. It's just super disrespectful to think that this defense is going to be able to get blown out by 9.5 points to anyone. Mm-hmm. And I said it after the game, and I think I said it on the show, I wasn't super impressed with the Ravens offense and Lamar Jackson. Mm-hmm. Even this game, he had stats, but he didn't throw anybody open. He didn't fit balls in the tight windows. It was all wide open people that he was throwing to.
It was all Zay Flowers is incredible.
He's really good. And he gets wide open, and he overthrows guys a lot. And I also said we need to push the ball down the field. We can't just sit 3 yards, a cloud of dust, dink and dunk. We got to throw the ball. And the last couple drives we did, and that's what helped us.
We turned into a passing team in the second half, not because we wanted to, but because there was pretty much no choice. The Raiders had 8 yards of total offense. If you want to get on the show, you got to gargle Soto's nuts.
We'll get you Doyle rules.
Raiders had 8 total yards in the first quarter. The Raiders had 27 total rushing yards in the entire game. The Raiders averaged 1.6 rushing yards in the game. So Luke Getsy said, you know what? Fuck it. We're slinging it. Gardner Minshew threw 38 times, completed 30, 276 yards, a touchdown to pick. He did take 5 sacks. We'll get to all that as we go along. But it basically said, you know what? Davante Adams, Brock Bowers, take over. Jesus, take the wheel. They had 21 targets between the two of them, the vast majority of those in the second half.
And 2 drop touchdowns.
And a couple drop touchdowns, right? A couple caught touchdown. But they said, you know what? Where's our strengths? What can we put our faith in? And they decided it was Davante Adams and Brock Bowers, and that was the right decision.
So it's a novel idea, right? Put the ball into your best player's hands. Mm-hmm. It just makes sense. A few of those passes was mostly Davante Adams running the route in such a way that it makes the ball seem like it's a perfect throw. Mm-hmm. Because he slows up a little bit, so the defender who isn't looking back at the ball has to slow down a little bit too. At the last minute, he late catches it, and a lot of these deep passes are a lot of the nuance that the wide receiver can do to make the ball look like it's a perfect pass. Brock Bowers was just getting open on everybody. That was just him getting open and Minshew delivering the ball on time. He's special. Brock Bowers is a special player. And I think the more we see of him going forward, the more we're going to realize that he was a pretty damn good pick at number 13.
This game started off as the most boring game of the morning window. It was 9-6, just exchanging field goals. We'll get to our great defense and the Ravens offense here in a second, but it was like the boring game of the morning window. I was like, oh, great, 9-6 game. These are the only games we're going to be able to win. It's blows so much. Neither team getting the offense going. Neither team can run the ball for shit. And then the second half hit. And the Ravens started getting a little success with the run game. Derrick Henry started going a little bit. Zay Flowers started getting a little wiggle in him, getting open. And the Raiders said, all right, we're just going to start slinging the ball now. and ended up scoring 20 points in the second half. We scored twice as many points in the second half of this game than we did in the entire game last week. And I think Luke Getsy got a little creative, right? Like there were some issues for sure in the very first game, right? Week 1 against the Chargers. And my biggest issue with Getsy was like, there's a lack of creativity. Like this isn't working. Like, let's get creative. Let's try something different. Like if it fails, that's not good, but at least you're trying something. This week, we got different. Slung the ball a lot. Started mixing in some screens. There was a kind of a cool little like fake option, then he bootlegged the other way. Like, Getsy got creative. There was that touchdown drive on a single run. Getsy opened up the playbook a little bit.
Yeah.
Turned into a win.
No, I didn't say that. I never said to abandon the run altogether. I did say throw the ball more. In the last few drives, we saw a lot of, like you said, a lot of that motion, which, it keys in on matchups and it gives you an idea of not only how they're covering Davante Adams, but also how they're covering Brock Bowers. And it gives you the ability to kind of get that quick pre-snap read because you're going to one of those two guys. And I'm not going to discount a couple of big catches that Jacoby Myers made, one on a third down to give us a first down over the middle. But he's a great third option to have. Jacoby Myers is, and yeah, we kind of did a little bit of a combo deal where we had two tight ends in there, but we would move Bowers around like what we thought was going to happen from the very beginning of the season. 12 personnel, move Bowers around, look at the matchups. I think Getsy finally got his head out of his ass and stopped being he was being cute the other way by not doing what everyone thinks they're going to do, which is just 12 personnel and move Bowers around. He started doing it and it started to work. So let's hope that we don't have to go through this whole rigmarole again next week until we start doing the stuff that worked this week next week.
Cuban Raider, very much appreciative of
Thank you, Cuban Raider.
You're the man. RJ and Soto, great preview before this game. We ended it the way it had to be done. This team has so much fight. Cheers to you guys. Thanks for what you do. Thank you, Cuban Raider. Yeah. And the commentators even brought it up. Tiki brought it up in the broadcast. I forgot who the play-by-play guy was. How, things look rough, things look down, things weren't going well, but there was still fight in this team. And I think nothing sums that up more than right after we have a rule on this show. We're not going to ignore in victory what we would critique in defeat. So we always do. We'll get to the mistakes in a minute. Critique, yes. We'll get to the mistakes in a minute. But after Minshew threw that really atrocious interception, this happened.
Saying, look, we got you. We got your back. Don't worry about it. You got to go get them next time. Yeah, I mean, that's
Maxx Crosby, heart and soul of this team, leader of this team, unquestionably the main focus of this team, goes to his quarterback, 6th round pick. Nobody wanted him. Career backup and said, "We fucking believe in you. That mistake you just made, that's not you. You go be a hero." I tweeted at the stat master of Raiders, Josh Dubow, AP's Josh Dubow. What were Minshew's stats before that pep talk, and what were they after? I'm waiting for him to respond. We'll share it with you guys if he does. I can do it, but I just don't have the time to do the math. I'd rather talk to you guys than my nerdery, my calculator. But I mean, that's what this team, I think, is. That's why we have Antonio Pierce, not because he's an experienced coach or an X's and O's genius, or it's motivates. He's the most out of his players, and Maxx Crosby is an extension of that, and that's what we saw.
It goes to show that this team is together, and they're not. That's why I think you and I were both a little bit kind of like, I mean, we thought it was kind of funny, all the doom and gloom and like, oh, this is a 3-win team type of thing. And by no means am I saying this team's going to win the Super Bowl or anything like that. But one game, the first game is a lie. That's what people say all the time about the NFL. You got a lot of these teams that are good teams that are playing like crap, and a lot of teams that were world beaters week 1 that win a handful of games more the rest of the season. What do you do when your back's against the wall? How do you respond? And that's not just the players, that's the coaches as well. How do you respond to not being able to do what you plan to do all week going into the game? How do you change things up? How do you switch things up? How do you make things happen? It's more than just something on the players, it's on the coaches as well. And they showed up today.
We're obviously doing this. So if anyone's watching the presser and either hears from Minshew or Maxx or whoever, I'm very curious exactly what Maxx said. It was probably just very Maxx. We believe in you. You got this. Don't fucking worry. Maybe he was quoting Shakespeare. Maybe he was quoting Voltaire. Maybe he was speaking in Latin. I have to know. I have to know what that was so I can make that my alarm clock in the morning so I'm motivated to get some shit done. Raiders Trojans, thank you very much for the super chat.
Fight on, Raiders Trojan.
Getsy changing it up with lessons from the first half is all I've been asking for since McTrash. Raiders. Yeah, it's the jury is very, very, very much still out on Luke Getsy. Still very, very, very still terrible game week 1. Great adjustments in week 2. He was basically our third choice as offensive coordinator. Was his lack of success in Chicago because of him or Justin Fields or something else? Was his success as a passing coordinator in Green Bay because of Aaron Rodgers? Or these are all still things that to be figured out, right? But hat tip, props to him for an adjustment. Again, us Raider fans for the last couple of seasons, we didn't get that adjustment, Daniels. It was, I have the book. It is always right. If you do exactly what I say, we will always win no matter what. Whereas Getsy's like, let's figure out what works. And today it was Davante and Brock will route themselves open. You let them do the work. It worked.
And it was also a couple other things. It was personnel packages. It was formations. It was pre-snap motion. So it wasn't just this is what we want to do. It's how do we get to that point? Because, Minshew, he ran into a couple of issues, but he got sacked 5 times. Mm-hmm. And he was pressured a whole lot more than that. So a lot of things needed to fall in place to be able to allow him the time to be able to throw the ball further down the field. And once we figured out what was working and we kept the same personnel on the field and played a little bit. I wouldn't say a hurry up, but kind of like a walk up offense where we weren't switching anybody out, but we weren't huddling either. So it kept the Ravens on the field, not so much getting them tired, but not allowing them to match up from the previous play where things went wrong. And we just kept working it and kept working that plan, and it worked. It worked the last few drives.
So I'm going to need you to adjust your camera. You're cutting off the Raiders on your hat. We can't have the Raiders logo cut off. While you're doing that,
nobody puts the Raiders in the corner.
No one does. Raider Russell, thank you so much for the super chat. Screw the media commentators. Raiders. So you know how NFL does their or NFL Network does their picks, and it's I think is it 12 guys? They have the video. They have everyone gives their picks. All 12 pick Baltimore. You know when that happens, the Raiders are going to win. Rory put it perfect. You newer subscribers don't know Rory. He was with us at the very beginning, but now he's married, job. Couldn't do the show with us. He's a loser. But he said, what the fuck did he say?
He says a lot of nonsense, so I don't know.
He does. And it's in an English accent, so it's hard to remember. Anyway.
Ask London Raider, and it's kind of like a wishy-washy, half in, half out English accent.
Yeah, we'll need him to translate for us. So this video just surfaced. Take a watch, guys. This is seconds ago. AP, big hug with his general manager. Look at that smile. I don't know who you are, girl, but I'm giving you a hug. I know who you are.
That is some Kool-Aid ass hair.
Look at
that. Red. Hang on. Let's see the homegirl with the red hair.
Look at that passion. Look at that love.
Dude, that's fucking red ass hair.
I don't know, but Pierce likes her. Oh, so happy.
I like her.
Look at that joy. Look at that level of joy.
Yeah, man.
That's happy, man.
That's what it is. That's what it is. That's what we need.
All right. So let's get to it. As if we haven't been getting into it anyway. Gardner Minshew, let's get to him first. 30 of 38. Again, stats like last week, his box score was good. 30 of 38, 276 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He took 5 sacks, 94.7 rating. He had the interception was really atrocious. It was bad. It wasn't like a 50-50 ball where, his guy got beat. It was, I don't know.
Terrible.
I don't know what that was. That was really bad. But he was pretty efficient. A lot of kind of just dink and dunk in the first 3 quarters or so. The game started opening up towards the end of the third quarter, started throwing some longer ones. He had a long one to Davante, 30 yards, a 27-yarder to Brock Bowers. After that, it was, pretty medium to a lot of like check down to the running backs, etc. But he got into his groove after Maxx told him whatever he told him in that pep talk after the interception. I'm waiting on those exact stats. I'm very, very curious. But pretty standard Gardner. Like, he missed a couple, but there was a good 3 or 4 plays where he scrambled, bought time, let his receivers get open, threw the ball. He's still Gardner, right? He didn't like sit in the pocket and go through his progressions and analyze it, but when he needed to move around a little bit and buy time, there's a couple times that he did. And he put up 26 points with a run game that averaged 1.6 yards per carry.
And that's the most impressive part, is he's doing all this with, really nothing to speak of running game wise. Mm-hmm. So these defenses are just pinning their ears back and going after him. And this shows the toughness of what it needs to be an NFL quarterback, because he's not a huge guy. He's like 6'1", I guess, something like that. 200 pounds, maybe.
Well, yeah, I'm small here, but not in real life.
Not all the time.
Not all the time. That's what he said. Not all the time.
But look, he was getting crushed by this offensive line. And I'm not just talking about sacks either. He was getting hit a lot of pressures, but he still stood in the pocket and delivered these balls, even after getting crushed, and even knowing that he has no running game to help slow this defense down. He's like, well, screw it. I just got to stand in there and deliver the ball. And he did, which is, shows a lot of courage and a lot of fight in Gardner Minshew.
Only 8 incompletions in a game where Davante had one really atrocious drop where he'll never be that open again. He had another, it was kind of underthrown, but it was a drop by Davante in the end zone. And it was one of those drops where it's like, all right, when your quarterback is a 6th round career backup getting paid $15 million, and you're throwing to a guy who's a 6-time All-Pro, and 2 seasons when he got signed, he was the highest receiver in football. If it's a little underthrown, but it hits your hands, that's on you, right? That's on you. If it's Patrick Mahomes throwing to an undrafted rookie, it's on Patrick Mahomes. Like, you're the star. You got to make that play happen. When it's this exchange, Davante had to catch that. So, and there was probably 2 other of those passes that were throwaways. Where he was just running for his life and threw it away kind of out of his hands. So really, it was like 3 actual incompletions and a terrible interception. Not a lot of like one really bad mistake, and then no face palm errors after just that one pick.
He's shown to be pretty accurate. I mean, a lot of the people that were saying before the year started that he's inaccurate, that hasn't come to fruition yet. He's been very accurate with the ball the first 2 games. His decision making hasn't been the best. He does seems to have a little bit of happy feet. I'm not going to come down on him for that, seeing how much he's been sacked and how much he's been hit so early in the season. But he stands in there and he delivers until the end of the game. And ultimately, that's really all you can ask for, makeup wise, as far as someone's mental makeup, to be able to continue to give your team a chance to win by not bailing out on plays too early just because you've been hit earlier in the game.
Well, he has good accuracy. I think it's also very buoyed by the fact he checks down a lot, right? Like, he throws a lot of those check downs. It ups his accuracy. His accuracy deep isn't great, which you've brought up. You have the stats. You've brought it up multiple times. So it's not like his accurate. Like, the issues with him isn't like getting the ball to guys that are open. The issue to him has been he doesn't go through his reads well. Like, he was sacked 5 times. Most of the O-line. Most of the offensive problems is the O-line. Okay, we'll get to that in a minute. The problems with the offense so far this season starts with the O-line. Minshew also isn't great pocket awareness, and he took 5 sacks. It could have maybe only been 2 or 3 if he was a little bit better in that realm, right? It's
I don't agree with that, but that's fine.
we'll disagree on that. For me, it's the awareness in the pocket and getting those reads. Because there were, in some of those sacks, there was a guy running just like a quick out that he could have got the ball to, right? Where when you know the offense, the line is struggling, you do kind of like get the ball out quick, and that's not Minshew. It's not Minshew. So those have been the main issues plaguing Minshew throughout his entire career, and the same this season. The problems with Minshew have never been getting the ball to open guys, buying a little bit of time by scrambling out. When guys are wide open, he can throw the deep ball when guys are there. When you've got Brock Bowers and Davante Adams, he can get stars the ball. That's never been his problem. And so finally he's like, oh, let's just let Davante and Brock do the bulk of the work and have Davante and have Minshew just get him the ball. Like, that's our recipe.
I don't know how that is like some kind of like epiphany or like revelation. You want to get those two guys the ball. You drafted Brock Bowers, a tight end, after you drafted a tight end the year before in the second round. You drafted him because he's a special player. He was probably, arguably, and it's not even that big of an argument, the greatest tight end to ever play college football. The only 2-time Mackey Award winner, which is given to the best tight end in college football. The only guy to win it twice. So you have that guy, and you have an all-world, all-pro receiver. Get them the ball. I don't understand why this is such an issue and why we have to go through all this. It's like you're having an argument with your chick, and you're going back and forth, and she knows she's wrong, and you know she's wrong, and she knows she's wrong, and finally she gives in at the end. It's like, why do we have to go through all this to get to the point where we should have gotten from the very beginning? It doesn't make any sense.
And I think it's a matter of overthinking a little bit, right? You're like, all right, we got to be a run first team so we can get in our 12 personnel, so we can get the mismatches against our tight ends, and then when we have to do that, we have to run to do this, and you start overthinking it a little bit, right? You start being like, instead of playing like you're playing 5D checkers when it's like you have the two guys that they can't cover, like just start there, right? If that doesn't work, then move on. You got
it. Just get the ball to your best players. That's this. It never mattered. It never matters to Andy Reid. It never mattered to a lot of these big time offensive geniuses out there, to Sean McVay, to any of these guys currently in the league, to the Shanahans. It didn't matter if you knew what they wanted to do. They still did it, and they worked off of it. Don't be cute when it comes to players like Davante Adams and Brock Bowers. Those are your best 2 receiving options. Get them the fucking football. It doesn't make sense to be cute about it. Establish what you have, what is your best. Establish that first, then work off of that.
Johnny Gons, thank you so much for the super chat. Sweet photo, by the way. Just when I thought I was out, 18 beers and a Raiders win, and I'm back, baby. What up, fellas? 18 beers? Not even 2 o'clock. I am very impressed.
Bro.
That's like Havasu at 23 years old in August.
That's 120 degrees in Havasu when the Coors Light just come right out of your body.
Yeah.
It's like you're drinking yourself sober. Like you're sweating faster than you're drinking.
Raiders Trojans, thank you again for super chat. Our
$5
defense is
Trojans.
top 5 at minimum. Let's get in the defense. Let's dive balls deep into the defense here.
Real quick, let me hop in really quick here. I did some preliminary numbers here just off of the play-by-play.
Okay.
After the interception, Gardner Minshew was 18 of 24, 219 yards and a touchdown.
Telling you, I want whatever Maxx Crosby said to Minshew after the interception as my alarm clock sound.
Pretty good.
I can get up and crush the day. Defense is phenomenal. Absolutely great. We'll start with the negative so we can get to the positive. Open field tackling has been kind of an issue. A little bit of an issue with open field tackling.
Yeah.
The Ravens know how to run. They've been one of the best running teams in football the last like half decade. So not easy team to tackle. A little bit of an issue. They did tire last week. It looked like they were kind of starting to tire this week a little bit until the offense gave them
That
some
last
time
long
to
drive
breathe.
really helped them out.
That was a big rest stop for them. And the depth, I think depth is part of an issue for that too. We're not really that deep of a defense. We don't have any holes, but there's not a lot of depth behind them. So you can't rotate guys out, keep them fresh. That's something to follow. And also at the same time, we played back-to-back harbaughs. That's their goal, is to tire out your defense. So it might not be as big of an issue as the season goes on, but something to keep an eye on. And takeaways aren't good. We have one takeaway in 2 games. We're averaging half a takeaway a game. That needs to be better. Now that we've got that out of the way. Go ahead, Soda.
The only thing that we need to fix is our secondary breaking down in the open field. More so our safeties breaking down in the open field. Both of them had pretty bonehead plays this week.
Yeah.
Merrick with that, I mean, if you want to call it a late hit out of bounds, I think he more just kind of bumped into him.
There were ticky-tacky penalties both ways.
Both ways.
That was BS, but we got some, they got some. It was poorly officiated, put it that way. Poorly officiated game.
Yeah. And Epps had, I think, 2 really bad, just getting juked out of his shoes in the open field. He just needs to break down more, give up maybe another yard or 2 on the run, and not go in there for such a hard hit. Because, and this is what really bothers me too, is when a guy's coming in for a big hit and they get juked, they automatically just slip on the field. Like, oh, I slipped. Like, no, dude, you freaking made yourself slip. Like you tucked your foot under that way to make yourself like he slid, basically, to look like he slipped when he got juked. So those are 2 things that I think we need to clean up. Spillane played like a freaking animal. He was blowing up blocks.
He was everywhere.
He is an MVP, knocking down passes, intercepting balls. If you take a look, I was noticing him play.
He's clutch when you need him to be. He's meeting potatoes when it's not big issues. He's doing the little things. He's doing the big things. Like Maxx Crosby is the best player on our team. Heart and soul of the team. Heart and soul of the defense. Best player of the defense. If you need a massive play, he's the guy. The most productive member of our team is Robert Spillane. He's the most productive player on this team.
Guys, if you ever have a chance to watch this game over again for whatever reason, watch Spillane, how he takes on the tacklers. He takes them on at the line of scrimmage. He doesn't wait for them to come to him. He's like, oh, you're going to block me? Let me stuff this hole up, giggity. And he did a lot of the game. And the only success that the Ravens had running the ball was on the edges. They didn't have any success running up the middle. And even then, after we kind of figured that out, alignment-wise, we were able to get our ends out a little bit wider and force everything inside, and it kind of helped us.
So this defense, no holes to speak of. There's no like weak spot. Like this, whoever the other defensive tackle is probably the worst player on the field at that moment. But
I think it might be Diablo, dude. Honestly,
yeah. I mean,
I think he might be I want to say worst, but like the least contributing. And I'm not talking about stats wise. I'm talking about watching the game and who's out of position, maybe late on plays, stuff like that. Because I think Jenk is doing a good job.
If you're an opposing offensive coordinator, you're not like, okay, I know where the obvious hole is. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, the second corner can't play press man, or this defensive tackle, we can easily push him around, or this linebacker can't cover, right? There's no like obvious hole as an offensive coordinator to attack, which is great, right? Super aggressive. They did, like, teams have been able to run on us, like they average 4.7 yards per carry, but it's mostly like stuff, boom, stuff, boom. So like our rush win rate is high. Like it's normally just like, all right, 2 or 3 rushes kind of hurt us. You know what I mean? As opposed to like guys are getting 5 yards of carry every time out. pass coverage is fantastic. A lot of guys were kind of wide open, but that's kind of just Lamar Jackson being Lamar. Like there's some things you just can't control. Lamar will buy 7 seconds.
Yeah, when he scrambles around, guys are just going to get open. It's just
he's MVP for a reason. You know what I mean? Like that led to some like pretty wide open guys. And in fairness, like we'll give Zay Flowers his flowers. Like he's fucking
good. Can we talk about freaking Ja'Cory Bennett for a second?
Please.
Dude, I kind of know why they didn't go out and get a high-priced veteran corner now.
Mm-hmm.
Because Ja'Cory Bennett is pretty damn good.
Coverage has been good.
Covering pretty good.
He's the one that broke up the that's Blaine pick, right?
That likely pass at the
that was Bennett, right?
Deep pass. It was who was it? It was Aguilar.
It was Bennett that broke that up, right? And
yeah, it was
Blaine
Bennett that broke that up. Yeah.
So he's he gets probably 65% of the credit for that interception.
Stepped up and had a good tackle at the line of scrimmage on the outside. He's playing really well, man. He's playing really well. He's got more confidence, and his speed is showing up. His speeding is showing up. He's able to recover, and it allows him to kind of peek into the backfield a little bit and look back at the ball when he knows he has that speed to recover. It's a good something to have in your back pocket where you're able to maybe cheat a little bit because your speed can help you. And man, Jack Jones with that big play unlikely at the end of the game to force
or like unlikely,
right? That was the first likely. He juked Bennett on that when he got his long run, he caught it and juked Epps. But yeah, man, these guys are all coming together, and hopefully next week we can get some of these touchdowns in the first half instead of waiting for the second half.
And the interception too, man. Like I think this, like you have pride if you're an offensive NFL unit and you're watching your defense like carry your team, and you're shitting the bed, right? Like you that matters to you, right? Like that hurts. That interception off that like that Spillane Bennett interception, that's when the offense took off. Like immediately, Minshew had his best plays after that. He had this great where he bought time. Found Bowers. Bowers dragged like 8 defenders from like the 9-yard line to the 1, and we punched in after that. Like, obviously, like the interceptions are great by themselves, but like it inspired the offense. Like Minshew got his pep talk from Max, got a freebie, and he's like, "I'm not letting this team down," and that led to his best play of the season so far, finding that time and getting Bowers.
Yeah, I don't know that. Lamar Jackson was the same after Max pancaked him.
Yeah.
He was a little shook, I think. I don't know if you guys saw this, but I mentioned it to the guys in the chat. It seemed like Christian Wilkins hurdled Maxx Crosby after his sack. Mm-hmm. Like, remember when you with your buddies, like you used to like jump behind their back, put your hands on their shoulders, and like jump over their head. Mm-hmm. Christian Wilkins did that to Maxx Crosby after his sack.
I got this.
Did you get it?
No. I'm saying like that's what he's saying. He's like,
oh yeah. Dude, he freaking jumped. Oh my god. I saw him fall. I'm like, that's 94. That's Christian Wilkins, dude. That was freaking amazing.
That's a big boy jumping over a big boy.
Oh yeah.
Robert Spillane, 10 total tackles, 8 solo, 2 passes batted down, interception. Interception. Quarterback hurries. He's the most productive player on our team. Productive. No one produces more than Robert Spillane. And in fairness, the linebacker should. If you're the starting you're linebacker,
the guy with the guy with the green sticker on his helmet definitely has to be the guy that's around more plays because he's in the field of play. As far as in the backfield, you got Maxx Crosby, 6 total tackles, 5 solo, 2 sacks, 4 tackles for loss. So 6 of his 6 tackles were behind the line of scrimmage.
The guy was just living in enemy territory.
2 sacks and 4 tackles for loss.
He was a Viking in 12th century England, just doing what he wanted, just hacking.
That is one of the most amazing, crazy stats I've ever seen. He also had, on top of that, 2 quarterback hits and a pass defensed. Woo!
See, that's what I mean. Maxx has like the more impactful plays, right? Like he does the superstar and he does the bread and butter stuff too. He's Maxx Crosby, but he's like he has all like the flashy stuff. While Spillane's just kind of like I'm constantly doing shit, right? Like it's just a perfect compliment. These two guys, you know what I mean? Wilkins is in there doing his job. Divine Diablo had some big errors, but he was also third in tackles on the team. Like he was in there, but he had some whiffs, boy. He had
My issue with Diablo, isn't the amount of tackles that he makes, it's where he makes them. He gives up a lot of ground because he's not set and he doesn't trust what he sees, and he sits back way too much. And because of that, he has those alligator arms sometimes, and guys get a few more yards than they should. I don't know, man. Look, the way this defense is rolling, they can't afford to have a weak spot like that. If they want to be that type of defense for the whole season, someone has to step up in that spot, and either that's going to be Diablo stepping up or one of the other guys stepping up. Because I'm telling you some Masterson, Eichenberg, Gainer, fucking what's the other guy's name? Bernie. Like those guys will want some play time too.
Yeah. In defense of Diablo, what was up with the commentators ripping that hit on Lamar when he was 100% in bounds? He was 100% in bounds. He was 100% in bounds, and it wasn't even a hard hit. Like they slowed it down. It's like both Lamar's feet are inbounds when Diablo makes contact, and it wasn't like a helmet to helmet or some flagrant hit.
Pushed him.
Like, he pushed him out of bounds whilst he was inbounds. The announcers are like, oh, I don't know. That was close. What the fuck are we watching? Like, just because Patrick Mahomes would get a penalty, would get a flag there because, he's Patrick Mahomes and it's the Chiefs and you know how it works.
Patrick who?
That doesn't mean that that's how it should always be. You know what I mean? Like, this terrible standard has been set when it's like Tom Brady, Mahomes, Rodgers, like they're going to get those penalties because it's the league and they want those guys protected and it's all bullshit. Don't think that's the standard. Like that's the cheating. Like that's the exception to the rule to cheat. That shouldn't be the way, like that shouldn't be it all the time for everybody, right? Like you can hit a quarterback who's in bounds. Novel thought. I know. Wild, wacky. I'm the crazy one. That's my defense of Divine Diablo.
Yeah, it's like what I led off the show with. Lamar Jackson had stats, but he didn't really necessarily play all that well as a quarterback. Yeah, he got stats, but it's like when it really mattered at the end of the game,
he had his Lamar moments.
Yeah,
he had his moments. He had his eye-popping Lamar moments, and he had Zay Flowers. That was really it. Like Zay would get open, or Lamar would flash like only Lamar can right now. Everything else, average. Everything else is pretty average.
I mean, yeah.
Or we made him look that way.
Yeah, it's just
21 of 34, 247 yards, a touchdown and a pick. 91 of those yards came to Zay, who played lights out.
So I'm just wondering how this offensive line will look with Jackson Powers Johnson. Mm-hmm. He's been practicing the last 2 weeks. I honestly do think the only reason why Colton Miller started the season as the starter was because he's, a 9-year or 8-year veteran. Or 8-year, right?
Is it that many already? No.
He was drafted in 18, right? Or 18. He was drafted in 18.
Might be, yeah. 8th season.
Now, you had a concern over this because he missed a lot of time.
He missed all the time.
He missed everything. He missed everything except for he came back the Tuesday before the first game, practice-wise. So, he's not Trent Williams, who can just sit on the sidelines and come in the first game and still dominate. Yeah. Yeah, he's not played well these first 2 games at all. He's given up a lot of sacks, a lot of hits, a lot of miscommunication, and we'll see. I think Jackson Powers Johnson being a rookie coming in, not having played in the NFL yet in the regular season game or even preseason game for that matter, get him a couple of weeks of practice underneath his belt, healthy, and then we can see about getting him into the games. But the Panthers only scored 3 fucking points today, dude. From what I'm seeing.
That's gonna be a nice. Well, oh, that's what Rory put it perfectly. Like it would be the most. Or we in our text chain, Rory was like, it would be the most Raiders thing ever to go into Baltimore and beat them as 9.5-point underdogs. And I was like, yeah, it'd also be the most Raider things ever to have our home opener and lose to the Panthers. Like it
you better not, bro.
That's the shit that we do.
I'm going to that game.
But real quick on Colton, the offensive line is the main issue on this team. There's no bigger problem, and everything's kind of stemming from that. The how bad the offensive line is to the offense is worse than anything bad that's the defense is doing, right? So the biggest weakness on this Raiders team is the O-line. The hope is, like you mentioned, and it's kind of rough when you're hoping that a rookie is going to come in and save the day. As much as we all love Jackson Powers Johnson, like I fully believe in him and plan on him being good for us, but still a rookie, right? Hoping him is going to be a big step up from Whitehair, and hoping that whatever is going on with Colton Miller can be worked out. Whether it's he's still kind of injured, but they just needed him, or missing all of the preseason and off season in a brand new system that it's just a communication thing. He just doesn't know, right? Because he hasn't been playing. Those are the two kind of hopes here, right? Is that whatever's bothering Colton, whether physical or mental, is going to be overcome, and that Jackson Powers Johnson is the upgrade that we hope he is. If those two things don't pan out, Getsy and Minshew are going to have their hands full this season. We're going to have to play around the offensive line. Was the hope when the hope was we'd play through the offensive line.
Yeah, and I honestly do think that because Getsy did make the adjustment late in this game and it wasn't just playing a more sped up offense. It was also more motion, having 2 tight ends on the field at once, and going into and sticking to what works. And it was difficult in the beginning of the game to stick with what works because nothing was working. Mm. But once you figured it out, what was working, just roll with it. And it makes a lot more sense. Now we can maybe play a little bit off of that. I like the 2 tight end set. I like the motion of the Brock Bowers in motion. I don't understand, dude. Like, help me out here. Because we both said this same shit before we even started the season. 12 personnel, move Brock all over the field. And they just didn't do it until the second half of this game.
Again, I think it's the overthinking a little bit, right? Like they want to go in 12 personnel so they can run the ball. And so when they get the mismatches, because you're trying to get the defense to put 8 in the box of heavier guys to stop the run, that's when Mayer and Brock can run free because you've got some 240-pound linebacker covering you instead of a 210-pound safety. And the Chargers never bought it, right? The Chargers is like, no, we're just going to cover these guys. Like, we're not worried about them blocking because their run game's going to go nowhere. And so I think that's what it became is like, hey, we're trying to establish this run so we can open up play action. We can open up the 12 personnel and have it be a good passing formation. Like they didn't do the first step to take the second step, as opposed to just do what fucking works. Like every single offensive mind or analyst that I know, when they look at the Lions offense, they're like, they literally just do what works. We'll do zone, we'll do gap, we'll do play action, we'll do spread. They're just like, we're just gonna do what works. We're just gonna do what works, right? We're not writing a novel, meaning this has to lead to this, to this, to this, to this. And there's a place for that, right? Like that's how Andy Reid does it, and it's whatever, we've seen his results, but like you can just do what works without this elaborate cornucopia of ideas to get there. Don't let, because the first step didn't work, deviate you from doing this thing that can work.
And I think AP needs to take a big hard look in the mirror, because he's the one that's like, we got to, play behind the run and this and that, da, da, da. Look, man, maybe your team's built a little bit different, and it would make things a lot easier if you just did what your team is showing you is their strength.
Yeah.
And I don't know that you and I are necessarily like football savants or anything like that, but it just keeps getting me that when they finally started doing the things that we said they should, things started clicking a little bit more. And we have tools on this team to be able to play a lot better than we did in the first half of this game and in the previous game. Gardner Minshew made mistakes, but he also made a lot of good plays. And I don't know that us necessarily being more predictable is a bad thing, especially when you have those type of players that we have as weapons.
I think AP needs to stop asking the how and ask the why, and have that decide his decision making for a little bit. Like, why do you want to run the ball a lot? Why? Well, because the defense is your strength. You want to make sure they're rested, and you want to not make as many mistakes, right? Like, I think that's why teams want to run the ball, right? Let's move a little bit. Defense is resting. We want them to take over games and make sure they're ready to go. We don't want to turn the ball over or take a lot of sacks and put them in negative situations. Let's do that. It's like, okay, well, the run game's not doing that, but the passing game is. The passing game is giving your defense rests. The passing game's moving the ball. So instead of like, all right, how can we run the ball better? It's like, why do we need to run the ball? And if the reasons for running the ball are to do the things that your passing game is doing, do that. And I think that's part of,
Makes sense.
He's again, brand new head coach, super inexperienced. And these are some of the things he's going to learn, right? Is maybe not so much how, maybe a little bit more why. And you'll get to the adjustments and props. I don't know if it was Getsy that made the adjustments or AP, doesn't really matter, but they made those adjustments because they started asking whys instead of hows.
Yeah, it makes more sense. I think more coaches get in trouble trying to show how smart they are.
Mm-hmm.
And the coaches that are successful are able to use what they have, and they don't focus so much on the window dressing. They just kind of focus more on the meat and potatoes of what is on their team and what's going to help make them successful. So go off of what you have on the team, go off of what's been successful in the past, and make a game plan off of that, instead of just trying to be just so disguised and tricky that you're making it difficult for your own team to kind of figure out what they're trying to do.
Good. While we're on the topic of Antonio Pierce, really good game by him today. Decision wise, the Chargers game, he had a lot of brain farts. That 4th and 1 in the fourth quarter was the one that got like national attention and was like the really big deal. But there was a dumb red flag that he threw, a couple other dumb decisions. Timeouts didn't make sense. This time, timeouts were great. Decision making was great. That 4th and 1, nice play call, nice decision. Davante just dropped. Minshew sort of underthrew, but it was mostly Davante dropping it. Really, really, really good game by Antonio Pierce today. It was a mature game by the head coach today.
It's showing some progress, which is really all that we can ask for at this point, because we have to realize that this isn't like AP's fifth year coaching in the NFL.
Did AP outcoach John Harbaugh today? Can we say that? Can we say Antonio Pierce outcoached John Harbaugh?
I would only say that it's an argument to be had because of the two really bad challenges by Harbaugh. Those were, obvious plays. But I think more so than that, I think the team out executed the other team, We out executed the Ravens because the Ravens were trying to do the same stuff, and they kind of got it figured out before we did. So they were able to move the ball and run the ball more and be more explosive offensively before we were able to do it. So they figured it out too. It's just we have better players, I think, defensively than they have offensively.
I have a theory on one of those challenges. That Zay Flowers, when he said like it was a catch, when like the replay was clear. Like, there's no way Harbaugh doesn't have a guy in the booth watching the replay and seeing that Zay he clearly hit the ball before he caught it, right? But you hear like the audio was real. Props to CBS's audio team. Like the audio was great today. Heard some like sweet cuss words and some trash talk. It was great. You saw Zay Flowers get up. He was like, "That was a catch. That was a catch. That was a catch." Said it like 8 times. That was a catch. That was a catch. And so John Harbaugh's like, all right, I'll I'll challenge it, even though the replay clearly says it isn't. I think that was one of those like, all right, Zay's a second-year player, right?
Zay Flowers is a second-year player.
Second year, right? I think he's kind of like, okay, I've got this awesome wide receiver that I want to keep for a really long time. A little bit of a wild card. So let's learn some lessons. So he's like, all right, I'll challenge this, knowing it's not going to happen, as a learning lesson for Zay Flowers. So I went on a couple's date to Vegas for New Year's years ago, over 10 years ago, before Vicky and I were married. And there was a snowstorm that night, and we were supposed to drive back home from Vegas to LA New Year's morning. For those of you anywhere in the Southwest, you know what that traffic's going to be like. And there was a snowstorm coming in. So I told my wife, I was like, babe, let's stop at State Line. It's like $22 for a room. We'll drive 45 minutes to State Line, sleep for 4 hours. I'll wake you up at 4 a.m. We'll drive home. You'll make it to work by 9. Let's do that. She's like, no, we got to go. We got to get home. Let's just drive home. Let's just go. I'm like, babe, I'm a 3rd-generation trucker. I've been driving to Vegas back and forth for a long time. This is a master plan. Let's do it. No, let's just drive home. Like, okay, we'll do it your way. We'll do it your way, babe. It took us 12 hours to get home. And she ended up calling in sick to work anyway because the drive was so bad. You know how often she asks me, or she like tries to fight me when I say I have like a driving plan? Never. Because I can always just bring up that moment. It's like, remember in Vegas 10 years ago when you said, let's drive this way, and I said drive that way? It's like, okay, issue solved. Now John Harbaugh can go to Zay Flowers, be like, hey, challenge it. Zay, what happened last time? What happened last time? You cost us a challenge and we lost the game. I think John Harbaugh was like, hey, learning lesson for Zay, because that was clearly not a catch, and he still challenged it.
Well, there was also the other one too, the other challenge on Davante's catch when it was clearly a catch.
Yeah, I don't know what the lesson is in that one. That one was just bad. I don't have a marriage lesson to get out of that challenge. So yeah, hey, dare we say Antonio Pierce outcoached John Harbaugh?
Has
John Harbaugh won Coach of the Year? He's won Coach of the Year, hasn't he?
I'm sure he has.
It's just like assume he's done it.
I mean,
2019.
One thing that we haven't addressed is this is the first game where an AP coach team has come back from 10 points. That was
7 points. Was it 10? Is it 10?
Oh, it was. They have never come back from 7 or more. But it was 10.
Yeah, it's even more impressive. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
It was
7 or more.
10 because it was 7 or more.
And a lot of it was there was a lot of talk about not being able to play the game the way that AP was coaching the offense to run last season, because it doesn't lead to a lot of comeback victories, because it's so hit or miss if you're going to score. If you're giving up a lot of 3 and outs and you're not moving the ball down the field and you're just kind of dinking and dunking, it leads a little bit to that. And this offense is a little bit more open as far as to throwing the ball down the field more, and it allows you the opportunity to not only make chunk gains in the passing attack, but it gives you the opportunity to get pass interference, like that big pass interference call in the end zone, which is it was a pass interference. He was Davante Adams was being held on that pass, but it gives you the opportunity to get those. One thing that like you talked about how good Derek Carr was at getting pass interference penalties. He would just throw the ball up and the receiver would get interfered with, and
He'd
we would get
see the
big plays.
nameplate of the DB,
Yeah, you just throw it up.
and just throw it. Just throw it.
Minshew did that today, and it helped. And he put the ball on the 1 yard line. We scored a touchdown.
So to wrap things up, we're at almost an hour. We can keep going if you guys want, but my biggest takeaway today was when the game got on the line late and the game was in reach and we were ready to go, we delivered. Like the defense, like we had this great offensive run, got a touchdown. We're like, okay, who's going to step up? Defense gets a 3 and out. Sack and completion, 3 and out. Offense shows up, does its job. Defense is just handing the offense opportunities. The offense had been fumbling it for 6 straight quarters this season. Not fumbling literally, but just not delivering from their end. And then this time, the offense was like, we'll carry our end. Like, all right, defense, you're still the star of this team. You're the reason why we're going to win. We will do our part. And Minshew did it. Getsy did it. Finally, Brock Bowers and Davante Adams had opportunities to do it. Offensive line bought enough time at the right times to do it. This game was poised to get really bad when the Ravens scored their last touchdown. This had all the makings of last week, where defense is tired, their run game's getting going. You can't count on our offense to get off the score points or sustain a drive. Like the storyline of last week was about to play out this week, especially when you're going against Derrick Henry. Like, who takes over the run game late in a game more than Derrick Henry plus Ravens? Like, the stage was set for the Raiders to get their asses ridden out like last week. And Antonio Pierce, Gardner Minshew, Lou Getsy and company said, fuck that. We're going to deliver. Everyone stepped up. And instead of like us being like 0-2, the scheme is out to beat us. Both Harbaughs did the same thing. It worked. We're fucked. The Raiders said, nope, 9.5-point dogs. Things started turning for the worst. We hit the brake, turned it around, hit the accelerator, took over, and flying back from across the North American continent, back home with the W.
Yeah, a lot of things were going against us, man. We had a poor offensive showing in week 1, a game that we could have won and should have won, to be honest. We were traveling to the East Coast, early start. Didn't have it going offensively. Down 10 points in the fourth quarter. These are all things that teams didn't come back from. This team didn't come back from a lot. I want to show this picture here of Maxx Crosby's tweet.
Do it.
Kobe Bryant silencing the crowd. It shows a lot for this team to come back the way they did, because they didn't come back against the Panthers, right? Or they didn't come back against some weaker team. They came back against a team that is being looked at as a team that can make it far in the playoffs. And nothing makes me happier than to hear that the opposing team is complaining about calls, because we all know that we get the short end of the stick, not only against the refs, but the league and announcers. Like, they always kill us, right? If we can go ahead and make plays happen and get a win and leave the opposing fan base crying, it's all the better.
Yeah, we complain about the refs like you complain about the weather. You're just like, it's snowing again. What are you gonna do? That's just how it is.
It is what it is, man.
That's just life. Like, the Raiders aren't gonna get the calls, And there was bad calls both ways. Like, it was a poorly officiated game both ways today. Period. End of story. All right, Raiders 1-1. Ravens 0-2. Go figure.
They now have the last 5 years. They have only a 5% chance of making the playoffs now.
The Baltimore Ravens. That's a good Soto. That's a good fucking football team we just beat. That's a good team.
Yeah, that's a good team, man. We beat a good team.
We beat a really good team. Well coached, good quarterback, weapons, diverse weapons. Zay Flowers is awesome. Derrick Henry has still got it. Back-to-back weeks with touchdowns.
Oh, yeah.
Defense is still elite. At home, rough environment. We beat a really fucking good team. Well rested. They played a Thursday night game. Be happy, Raider Nation. We beat a really good team today, fair and square, and soundly. Soundly. There wasn't like one call. You know what I mean? It wasn't like their loss to the Chiefs where it was like just a fucking pube hair between a touchdown and not. Like we beat fair and square a really, really good team today.
Yeah.
And now we got the Panthers at home next week.
I will be there. If you guys don't follow either us or follow me on Twitter or on Instagram, I should be out in Vegas probably Saturday. I don't know if you guys want to, buy me a drink. Who knows?
He'll blow you. Soda will blow you.
That's not true. That is not true.
That's what he's saying right now. He's being shy. He's being
RJ,
coy.
RJ is honey dicking you right now. That is not going to happen. Never going to happen.
Light.
Nope. No.
Shaft.
That's not. He's trying to be funny. That's not right. That's not correct.
All the gravy.
I will not do it. I will. I give you a freaking a dap. And
beer in a can,
picture, whatever.
Very easy.
But I'll be in Vegas if you guys want to hang. More info.
Balls in his mouth.
More info on the next show.
Check his OnlyFans for where he'll be. Guys, kiss your wife, hug your kids, drink your beer. It's a beautiful day.
Before we go, I want to leave us with one final thought.
Good.
Daniel Munoz. 100% guaranteed Minshew is banging strippers and running lines of blow tonight, as he should.
I think he's running lines of strippers.
I think the line of strippers are blowing him.
Low. He's
good
going
for
to
him, man.
He marches to the beat of his own drum, as he should. What a great day. What a great day. All right. Until then. Knock on wood if you're with me. Hey.
Whoa, welcome.
Hey, you made it to the end of our video. Great job. I know you want more. Go ahead and click the next video. And if you're feeling crazy, go ahead and subscribe.